God has something for you to do, and you got to find out what it is. And so youth work is helping those young people get that desire, get that burden, see the amazing benefits of it, and then send them off into the world to go do it. And that's what we do. That's what we try to do, is to help people see that.
Welcome to another edition of Maverick University. I'm your host, David Hallberg. Joining me today is Brother Austin Merriott. Brother Merriott is the youth pastor at First Baptist Church in Dwight, Illinois, and is a graduate of Providence Baptist College. And so we are fortunate to have him with us today, talking about some youth work topics. And so thank you for joining us.
Amen. Glad to be here, and thank you so much for having me.
Yes, sir. What we're going to talk about now is we were talking about some youth activities, basically philosophy and the reasons why to have youth activities. Slightly different topic, maybe, just involving the youth in the ministry so that they have a desire to serve in the ministry. I understand fully that not everybody's called into full-time Christian work. I can't ever point in a time in my life where God's called me to preach, or to pastor or anything like that, but I've always made myself available to ministry, and it's been because of the people around me and that have made that available to me to experience it, but also to show me that it is something to be desired. And I greatly appreciate that. So I want you to talk a little bit about your background, because you served in the ministry from a young age and went on staff even at Northwest Bible Baptist Church at a pretty young age as well. Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about your background, and then we'll talk about some of the influences?
Yeah, so like Brother Hallberg said, my name is Austin Merriott, and grew up here at Northwest. My family came here in 1989. I was the ripe old age of 3, and came here when we were back in Prospect Heights. And my dad moved here. Honestly, he did not move here to come on staff.
Really?
He moved here just to be a church member. Okay. He felt God leading to come to be under the preaching of Pastor Keith Gomez.
I did not know that.
And so he came, and when we got here, then Brother Gomez offered him a position. And he started working there at the church, still has now over 30 years. And my mom became the financial secretary probably about the time that my sister and I both got into school. She stayed at home until I was in school. Sharon's 2 years older than me. And so she started working in the ministry, worked all the way up until just a few months before she passed away in 2008. And handled all the finances here at the church. And so growing up in a staff kids home, growing up literally for the first 10 years of my life, we lived on the church property in Prospect Heights. And so church was everything. I mean, literally 24/7. I mean, that's the way it was. We were at church. Whether we were at home or we were at church, we were at church. And so, that led to interesting opportunities for me. And having the opportunity as a 4, 5, 6, 7-year-old kid to sit there and hold the flashlight for my dad. And, most kids have done that at some point in time with their dad, talking, working on a car. But I got to do it while working on the church bus. And I got to spend time with him. And my dad was an extremely busy person, and always had stuff to do, work on the buildings or on the properties or at Brother Gomez's house, things like that he had to work on. But one thing that I'll never forget is that my dad included me in his work. Mm-hmm. He knew that he wasn't going to be able to. And we had times where we would stand in the backyard and play catch. But that wasn't going to be an everyday occurrence, because his schedule wouldn't allow. So if he was going to spend time with me, I came along with him. And I remember as a little kid riding with him to the parts store and getting to sit up on the parts counter. And I always thought that was the coolest thing, because I never saw any other kids get to do that. And get to sit on the parts counter and talk to the parts guys and watch my dad as he'd get different things. And we'd go back to the church, and I really believe that instilled a desire to serve. Just that time that I got to spend with my dad, that he would include me in those times where it probably took him more time really to get the job done, but he was investing in me. And that started at an extremely early age. I remember going on the bus route, 4 years old. I was with my dad riding, going, visiting bus kids. And that instilled a burden and a love for the bus ministry. And so I think that's a key element to getting kids to have that desire to serve, having that desire to do something beyond themselves. All right, like you said, God doesn't call everybody to be a pastor. God doesn't call everybody to be a missionary, to be an evangelist. We need more of them for sure. And I think there's a lot of kids that aren't accepting that call. But God doesn't call everyone to do that. God does call some people to be a banker, to be an architect, whatever the case may be. God has plans for that. But you can still be, and we hear it all the time, you can still be a full-time Christian. Yeah. And you can, as that job that you may have in the secular world, you can still be a full-time layman, and you can still serve in your church. But that has to come from somewhere, to have that desire. There's so many people that just literally show up Sunday morning, take up their 18, 20, 30 inches of pew, and go home. And that's all they do. And they think that they're doing something because they showed up to church. No, you're not. And God has something for you to do. And you got to find out what it is. And so youth work is helping those young people get that desire, get that burden, see the amazing benefits of it, and then send them off into the world to go do it. Mm-hmm. And that's what we do. That's what we try to do, is to help people see that.
Before we launch into that, I want to pause for just a second and talk about before we get into how a youth pastor actually involves the youth in ministries and things like that. I want to back up to something you said right out the gate, is talking about how you lived at the church 24/7. It's an amazing opportunity to be exposed to the ministry, but it's an amazing opportunity to have negative experiences as well. And for today you preached in College Chapel. You were talking about bitterness. And it's an opportunity for someone to have something happen, like things do, and instead of wanting to go in the ministry, get bitter toward the ministry. Right. Instead. No doubt those opportunities came, and you're serving God despite some things that may have happened. Can you talk a little bit about that? Growing up as, both parents in the ministry and serving, the Lord, full time like that, and being on property even. What were the ways that you tried to overcome some of that?
I think if I were to really put that into words, I think the most important aspect of that is it really doesn't fall on the individual, it more falls on the parents. My mom and dad didn't talk about it. They didn't go into details of when bad situations would happen. And so not seeing that firsthand, not hearing your parents gripe and complain, and this person did this or said, we didn't hear that in our home. And because you didn't hear that, you don't focus on it. And because you don't focus on it, you don't have to experience it. But at the same time, people are people. We all are, I said it today in class that, the best of men are men at best. And so people are going to disappoint you, but you got to maintain your proper focus. And my dad has taught me that many times, that what we do, we don't do for our boss. We don't do it for the pastor. We're doing it for the Lord. And if you can keep that focus right, things really always seem to just work themselves out. Mm-hmm. And like I mentioned today in chapel, not allowing that root of bitterness to take root. And when those seeds come that Satan's gonna sow, it's gonna happen. Hurt happens to everybody. Yeah. Bad things come, but it's how you react to the hurt and how you do it. And I mentioned it today in chapel, but to me, it's the most convicting verse in Scripture. But Psalm 119, 165, that great peace have they which love thy law, and nothing shall offend them. And to me, I take that to heart. I take it literally. When I get offended, it's my fault because if I loved God's book like I ought to, I'd have great peace and I wouldn't get offended. So if I get offended at something, it's not that person's fault. It's my fault. And it really flips the coin on you. Yeah. When you think, no, they did. No, I don't care what they did.
That's counterculture from today.
Oh,
too.
Yeah. Because it's everyone else's fault today. But no, it's how you react. You can't control what someone says or does or what happens, but you can control how you react. Mm-hmm. And when we react to the hurt incorrectly, it breeds bitterness. That's how it comes. And if you don't deal with it, it'll destroy you. We talked about the man Ahithophel in the Scripture today, and you see how it literally destroyed his life, and it can destroy you. And we've seen it. I mean, you've been in ministry for quite a few years now too, and you've seen it. You've seen it time and time again. People who allow things to fester, allow things not just individuals who are in full-time ministry, just church members who if you could really get to them to sit down and be honest completely, it was one minute little thing that someone said, someone did at some point. And honestly, a lot of times, Brother Gomez used to talk about this all the time. That person that offended you doesn't even know that they offended you. They don't even know that they did anything wrong. But you've held on to that for so long, it destroys you. It renders you useless, fruitless. And that's what a weed will do. It'll overtake your garden and just destroy you. And just surrounding yourself with the people, your parents is a massive key to that aren't living that way, and that aren't portraying that and criticizing and basically having a life of bitterness that then they breed to you bitterness as well. And so, yeah, it definitely, and it's not to say that, if your mom and dad are that way and are critical that you're going to end. No, you have a choice too to stand up for right and to do what's right. But I think that was a key element for me, is that my dad made the ministry, kept the focus right. It's about the Lord. What he's doing is for the Lord. And that enabled me to really, because people are people, and people say things and do things that, if you allow it, it can create bitterness and it can destroy you. And you just got to let it, like Brother Gomez says again, let it roll off your back, like water off a duck's back. And you just got to let it go and continue to keep your focus on the Lord. I
appreciate you going down that rabbit trail with me. It's kind of a little off topic.
No,
but
it's good.
That was good information. Can you talk to us a little bit about the practical application of, trying to get youth involved in ministry? For your situation, it was your dad, so he had 100% access to you. But as a youth pastor, you don't necessarily have that 100% access. And obviously you've got to go through the parents a lot of times to get the youth involved. What's some ways of doing that? Are there opportunities that arise that are just convenient opportunities to get youth involved?
So at our church in Dwight, we have a lot of unique opportunities that really, it's from my experience in ministry, a lot of other churches don't have.
It's true.
And we really do, but those unique opportunities are not unique to First Baptist Dwight. They are unique because our pastor makes those situations arise, makes them come to be a part of our life. And he's very good at that. He is very good at training the next generation and getting them involved so that they can, whether they stay in Dwight and grow up and become, church members and their family grows in our church, or whether they go off to Bible college and get called into ministry and go somewhere to serve, either way, they are well prepared to serve. Mm-hmm. And we have so many different events that we do that enables that to take place. We do things big. We do big events. Football camp is a massive event that deals with a whole lot of people for, what people might consider a small church in Dwight. Not only dealing with, the 200 plus boys that come to camp, but you're also dealing with over 150 pastors, assistant pastors, missionaries, evangelists that come. Yeah. And a lot of those, forgive me for using this phrase, but are alpha males. They are the pastor of their church. And so they do things there. And I understand that. Yep. But understanding and dealing with that as they come and handling that situation. But the prep for that is where we really are able to use, because obviously we want the boys to be at camp. We're able to use that event for the girls. A lot of them serve. A lot of them, they got to learn in that event alone. They got to learn how to get up early. A lot of those girls are at the church by 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning getting breakfast ready. Or they come in, they help breakfast and lunch and then go home, or they come in for lunch and dinner and they're there till 11, 12 o'clock at night cleaning up. And so it's an event that creates character. It's an event that we're able to, because there's so much going on, we're able to give them a responsibility and help them see success in getting that job done and doing it well. If you roll that back a little bit from the event itself, but to the prep, we spend weeks and sometimes months prepping for football camp because all the different things that go into that. And we have 2 weeks, especially right before camp, where that's what we do every single day. And those days, we're able to get the teenagers involved, and we have different teams of people, and one adult will take a couple teams here, and another adult will take a couple teams here. And not necessarily do I always get to work with each teenager one-on-one in those events, but an adult is able to work with them and be able to instill in them and to be able to push them and help them and teach them and train them. And it's worked very, very well, because it gives them the opportunity to serve. They appreciate football camp more because they've put so much time, sweat, and energy into it themselves. And that's just one event that we do. We do a lot of other events like that where there's a lot of prep work that they're involved in. And just when we have work days at the church or whatnot, just making sure that the teenagers are there. And again, it stems back to the parents, that a lot of our teenagers, their parents are on board. And so they make sure that their kids are there. If they know a work day is coming, their child's going to be there helping in some way, shape, or form. And so that again is so key, to make sure that these parents are on board and make sure that they have the desire to see their kids. And there's some parents who aren't on board, and a lot of times their kids don't show up.
So basically, you used football camp, which is very, very unique, but any church has some special events that take place, whether it's a dinner on the grounds, whether it's conferences or things that maybe they host, or something like that. And the key is, during the preparation stages,
right,
get your teens involved. And you're talking about, this comes from the top down. This isn't youth pastor led, this is pastor led,
right,
where the pastor has a desire and a vision to see the youth get involved. Otherwise, it wouldn't be as successful as it is to get the youth involved.
No, and that's true. It definitely, because as a youth pastor, you are an extension of the pastor as well. And it's got to be his vision. Because you've got to, as a youth pastor, portray his vision and find his vision and figure out how to accomplish that. And obviously you can suggest things and try to get the kids and teenagers more involved. But thankfully we have a pastor who is totally has a burden for the next generation, which most pastors, I would say, do. They want that next generation to see the importance of ministry, see the enjoyment of ministry, and reap the blessings, the benefits of ministry.
Mm-hmm.
There's many times we do an event and it's super successful, and we're able to sit back and say, hey, look, you helped with this. You helped get ready for the big day. And look at all the people that were saved. Those are to your account. You may not be the person who dealt with them at the altar and led them to the Lord, but they're just as much on your account because you took the trash out and cleaned the reception hall as you were getting ready for the dinner on the grounds. Yeah, they're on your account too, because you were serving the Lord, giving of your time, and helping young people understand that, and making it fun. When especially when you're dealing with volunteers, you can't kill them. You never can fire a volunteer. Obviously, we understand that. You can tell them to go home, of course, but you can't really fight. So you got to have a balance there. But having these kids to see the enjoyment and making it fun. Making whatever work it is, make it a competition. Whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish. Hey, who can do this the fastest? Who can do this the best? Who can do this? And that kids thrive on competition. They do. They should. Most kids do. But being able to take that time and breed that into them to get them to understand the why behind what we do.
I appreciate your time, Brother Austin, and it's an excellent topic. And maybe in the future we can do other topics, to include how to grow and maintain a good beard, because
it takes time and effort and energy and some money.
So maybe people can type in the comments and ask some questions there. Check us out on our YouTube channel. Make sure you like this video and subscribe, and that you also subscribe on our audio-only platforms as well. And check out all the other videos with Brother Austin Merriott as well. Have a good day.